Welcome to Beyond the Beard podcast. This is the media arm for the Brotherhood Community, a community and space devoted to helping men improve their lives. So we've had some amazing podcasts over the last few weeks. This is now our fifth one, I think. So yeah, pretty cool. And today we have Toby, who is a sports psychologist. Where are you trained, Toby?
So I'm based sort of in the East Midlands, like in England. Yeah.
Nice. So based in the East Midlands, quite near me. Although I'm living in Ireland now, it's quite nice to have someone closer to home. So, yeah, Toby, introduce yourself. Maybe tell us a bit about what you do, why you chose the things that you chose, and yeah, we'll dive into it.
Thank you. So yeah, thank you very much for having me on. It's been good to come on. So I'm training to be a sports psychologist. That's like my official title. So that what that basically means is I have like a supervisor who I work with who sort of assists me and looks over me, and then I work as a sports psychologist would. So with individuals, teams, groups of people across like a wide range of sports. We actually encouraged in our training to go into different sports, different ages of athletes, abilities, like amateur to right up to professional level, to sort of get that good rounded experience and skill set to be a sports psychologist. So yeah, doing that at the moment. Been doing it for about a year now,
Nice.
and on my current track, I've got about a year left, but it can kind of change, depends how much sort of work you get through and things like that.
Yeah.
And then I guess for why I'm doing this is quite a interesting sort of question. So I always loved sport, like playing sport all my life, different kind of sports. Rugby was my main one, but I loved doing sort of loads of different things. And then at school, I sort of did psychology at A level, just because I thought it was interesting as a subject to do. And I did find it really interesting, but then I found out about sports psychology and sort of merging the two together. So that was kind of why I sort of followed it and then did it at undergrad, enjoyed it, and then followed it, did it at masters as well.
Amazing.
Really enjoyed it, and now doing the sort of practical training to be a sports psychologist. Yeah.
That sounds amazing, bro. You know, if I was to go back and do my time again, I'd 100% become a psychologist or psychotherapist.
Really?
Yeah, I just love it. I find like psychology is this huge branch. Obviously, you've got different types of psychology, but even psychology as the huge branch, like all the different aspects of it, like I just find it so interesting. Like why we think what we think, why the brain works that way, you know, how it does all these things to protect ourselves, or maybe think it's protecting ourselves, but in turn, actually cause more damage. Like I just love it. Yeah, I find it very
Yeah.
actually philosophical almost. Psychology. I find it if I was to if I was to imagine like Plato or all those people back in the day, I reckon like they would be like old age psychologists.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I think, well, a lot of the roots of different like approaches to psychology have the sort of different philosophers that
mm,
have kind of started things off. And even now in sort of training, if you ask a psychologist what's your like underpinning or philosophical underpinning, they'll have to sort of tell you
mm,
where their approach comes from, or it should be sort of rooted in a philosophy. So yeah, it's all underpinned by philosophy, and it can be a bit of a rabbit hole once you sort of start looking at something. It's just you keep going, you keep going.
yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting.
What sports did you play, bro?
So rugby was my main sport that I played the most,
League
but
or union?
I played union.
Nice.
And then I played union, never played league, but I actually did an internship whilst I was doing my masters with Wigan Warriors Rugby League Club. So that obviously is quite similar-ish to union, but some laws are different. But
Yeah.
that got me really interested into leagues, and now I follow both equally. I don't play anymore either one, but yeah, I follow both of them equally. But other sports I did like hockey, cricket, football, like judo. I'm into
Nice.
running. Yeah, judo was really cool when I was younger. Into running at the moment. That's kind of what I'm doing.
What distances on the run?
So I've done a marathon, one
Yeah.
marathon earlier this year, which was really cool. And I'm actually doing an ultra in 4 weeks, I think it is. 50 mile, doing a 50 mile ultra in 4 weeks.
Nice.
So yeah,
Yeah.
getting really into it, enjoying it. But yeah, I think the ultra stuff is kind of more interesting to me. I mean, I'll see how I find it. The race, I might hate it and never want to do it again. But yeah, that sort of longer distance form is quite interesting, I think.
Yeah, I've done a few ultras myself. So, um, done 30 milers. I think that's 50k. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
30 milers. Done a few 30 milers. And if the thing about ultras is, you can pretty much eat what you want. You don't really run very fast. You walk up the hills, run down the hills. That's definitely more appetizing than running up and down the hills. Although, for me, I do find running almost like a self discovery journey. I don't know if you found this. Maybe it's like as you get into the longer distances, but like marathon onwards, so much happens for me mentally during that process. Like 5Ks, 10Ks, you know, it's all well and good running hard, fast, and your lungs are burning, and you think, oh, can I do this? Can I do this? But it's going to be over in with at least 50 minutes maximum.
yeah,
So there's no real concern or worry for me. But when you're doing like an ultra marathon and you're like 20 miles in and you've got another 15 miles left at least, you're like, why the fuck am I doing this thing? You go to a crazy place, a crazy place, and I find I get so much wisdom or knowledge about myself, like why I am the way I am, what things to change to be a better person. I find it like it's almost like self discovery almost. And I get that on the longer runs. I did a 28k last Sunday. I meant to be a marathon prep, but I'm just too busy on the business. I've like sort of neglected my running recently for the last month, I'd say. I did 28k last week just off the bat, and I've not run for like 3 weeks. So I was like 20k in. I'm like, why have I done this? But you just get it done. And I remember crying at about 23k, not because I was sad or anything. I just needed to cry, just like let this emotion out, and just felt so much better afterwards. Not that I felt bad before, but I definitely felt better afterwards. And I was like reflecting when I got back about all these times that I've done something hard like that, and um, it's really been transformative. Really been transformative. Yeah. Have you found anything like that?
yeah. I do. I think with the longer distance as well, with ultras especially, because running kind of it depletes your resources. They say so. Like obviously physically, it's
Yeah.
depleting your resources, carbs and everything, but mentally as well, because of the amount of time you're just doing one thing, your mind is just constantly going and going and going, and eventually you'll get to something that you perhaps haven't thought about before because your resources have been completely depleted of thinking about other things. So you eventually get to something that's kind of a deeper question or something you haven't thought about before, and then you just sort of find yourself asking yourself questions and thinking of answers in ways that you haven't done before as well. So I think that's maybe where that kind of comes from.
Yeah.
That sort of self. People talk about having like massive self realizations and things like that on these big ultra runs. I
100%.
personally, I'm sort of new to it, so I'm looking for it a bit. But yeah,
I'm excited for you. I'm really excited for you, bro. Yeah, it's your first ultra is it's probably the best one actually. It's probably the best because well, for me, this is my experience. What I found after running, 50k is like there's almost no limit then. There's almost no limits. I think like if I can do 50k, why can't I do 50k again? Like I've already gone past what I once thought was like my edge, my line,
yeah,
my stop. Um, yeah, I just find like after that point, after I think I've done like I've done 30 miler, which is I think 50k. I've done a 35 miler, but that was like more trekking, walking rather than anything else. But still, 35 miles, 35 miles.
yeah,
After that, I just thought like I could just do anything here. It was almost like not from a point of ego, but I definitely felt like there's no limit to this now. Like I could just complete anything, any physical challenge. Like I would just complete it. Like I just know
yeah,
that I can go to that place somewhere in my mind, wherever that is, and just keep pushing, keep doing that thing that I need to do. So yeah, I think there's like a sweet spot for me where it's past 10k, 100%. 10k is pretty shit, but not too difficult for myself. Like even when I run it fast, like I think I got a PB this year. I got 38 minutes, 37 minutes 38 So I was, pretty quick.
Yeah.
Super happy with the time. And then I started like pushing the 5K, so I got the 5K down to 17:44 or something. And it's all well and good, but at the end, it's like it's only 20 minutes of my life, and it's great, and it's hard, it's difficult, but you know, the whole time I'm just thinking, God, I just need to do something more difficult. I need to see where else, because like in those moments, in those where I'm like physically fatigued, or I'm questioning why I'm doing this. That's then those realizations, those downloads, boom, boom, boom. Um, yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
I can't wait for you, man. Super, super.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I think as well for the shorter distance stuff, it's kind of just about a time. It's your
Mm,
5K time, your 10K time, even up to the marathon. It's all about what time you ask someone, oh, I did a marathon. They'll be like, oh, what time did you get? It's kind of becomes, even though they're really difficult things to do, it becomes kind of accepted. And then certain times people sort of judge how well you've done. But when
mm,
you go to like ultra stuff, it's not about the time you get. No one really, because every course is different and elevation and all this sort of stuff and the weather. It's not about the time or even like where you come.
yeah,
Obviously, if you're trying to come in a certain place, then you can make it that. But I think when you let go of the sort of outcome goals and the time and things like that, you kind of get those realizations. But when you're doing it for other reasons, not just to sort of beat your PB and get this time that you think really matters to you. But yeah, I think being in nature as well for the ultra stuff makes a big difference. I think being sort of going out into the trails and not being on a road the whole time is why people do it as well. That's kind of like a big draw to it, to me as well, especially. But do you follow like some of the? It's becoming more and more popular now. These ultra challenges. Do you
yeah.
follow like these running influencers and things are doing all these challenges and things and drawing
Yeah.
people in?
So,
Yeah,
one of my favorite guys is Nick Bear. I don't know if you watch Nick Bear.
yeah, I've heard. Yeah, American guy.
Yeah, so he's amazing. He owns a company called BPN Nutrition, and he just did a last man standing. I think they call it. What do they call it? Um, what's it called? There's backyard ultra. The backyard ultra.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like a 6.217 loop or something like that, and you just do it every hour on the hour. So as long as you're back within the hour, you're good to go. Um, yeah, it's. I'd love to do those sorts of stuff, and feel like America just have this. They have the land for it. They have the space for it. They also have loads of runners. Like all the
yeah,
runners I follow are living in Texas, Austin, Texas. Um, Obviously, you got the BPN team that they're all from there. You got that English woman called Lucy Davies. She's class.
yeah,
Then you've got like that full team, and then you got like that 247 represents, which I've only started just seeing their work actually, but they're currently running across Iceland or something in a challenge. Um, it does look cool. I'd love to do something as a group. I find like these ultra marathons when you go run them, it's very like you speak to people on the way, but it's not a team exercise. I'd like to
yeah,
do like a 24-hour thing with somebody. Like let's do 3 miles each or something. After 3 miles, I run three. You run three. I run three. You run three.
yeah,
You just do that non-stop, for 24 hours. See how far you can get. That'd be cool as.
yeah. There is a. Have you heard of the Speed Project?
No, what's that?
So that's a team thing. I think it's kind of it's based in America, but I can't remember how big the teams are. But it's like I think the original one was LA to Vegas, I
Mm,
think, and loads of different teams sign up, and it's basically like you're on the start line. Everyone just says go. It's kind of like the course isn't marked or anything. You can go your own route, sort of thing,
mm.
and you can decide how long like each person runs. So you can do like 2K really quickly and just keep swapping throughout the team, or you can do sort of longer ones, let people sleep through the night, things like that.
Nice.
That's a cool sort of concept I've seen, but nothing like that in the UK, I don't think.
No, like. I feel like there's a Dragon's Back or something in Wales. That's like 8,000 feet of elevation or something. It's pretty mad. But
Yeah,
yeah. Other than that, I know there's one in Scotland, but yeah, most of the stuff that I'm looking at is like the Leadville 100 is like the what's that one in Utah? 140 miler in Utah. Um,
Moab. Is it
Moab,
Moab?
Moab
Yeah,
240. That's it. Yeah, yeah. Oh man, what a race! Like that is like 240 miles. Like I can't like that scares me almost. I'm like, right, I need to go try it. I need to go try this thing and see if I can do it because like from what I said earlier, I feel like right, I can just do it all now. Like I can do anything. I can do anything I set my mind to because like could I? Like then I start doubting myself and be like, oh, could I actually do it? Like 240 miles is a long way. I think yeah, I definitely need to up my miles a bit before I do that. I couldn't just bang it out like 28K. Um,
Yeah, yeah, you wouldn't want to jump straight into that.
then I'd
Oh God.
definitely be coming to you for some sports psychology injury prevention. Brother, let's. I just want to come to a point. So when we spoke on the phone the other day, we was talking about this idea of like loss of identity after injury. Um, I feel like this is really important point to talk about. Because I myself have had serious injuries. So I tore my both ACLs, not full on snap, but I think the ACL was meant to be 5 mil in diameter, and I think my right one was 2 mil, and my left one was 3 mil. So they were still attached, but they had
Mm.
tears in, and I was out for a while. Couldn't run, could do upper at the gym, but you know, like then you have a massive upper and a lower legs, and it's small legs, and it's
Yeah.
you know, I liked running, I liked climbing, I liked doing biking. This was during my time in the military, so I went to this rehab center called Hunter Company. Spent nearly a year in Hunter Company because I'd get somewhat better, and then I'd get injured again, and then I'd maybe get somewhat better, and then I would get better. I'd be like, oh brilliant! I go out for a run, and I'd just jump down something, and I'd just feel it go again. And it was just this
Mm.
backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. Then because of my backwards and forwards, constant injuries, I ended up getting a thing called patelliformal maltracking, which is like where the fat pad doesn't like roll flush over your patella or something. It actually rolls on the side, causes me pain. Because of that, then what was happening was I was sort of subsidizing that by going on my left hip more often. So then my posture was out of balance. So if I stand straight, my like shoulders are slightly like this because I was walking weird, and it sort of had this knock on effect for ages. I'm back running now. I'm back doing all these things now. I do a lot of injury prevention. I work closely with a good friend of mine who's an osteopath. We do like body weight stuff to strengthen the knees, the tendons, etc. And that's only been in the last year. My knees have been hurting since that point, and only since the last year when I really started focusing on rehab, they've actually started improving, doing all the knees over toes stuff, all that ATG lunges, Nordic curls, reverse Nordic, sissy squats, all these really good strong exercises. Um, but yeah, after I couldn't really run, I was man like I used to pride myself on being a fit guy. I used to pride myself on being like this really good runner, super fit, young kid. And after that injury, I was like, I used to even tell people like, I don't know if I could never come back to this. I'm never going to be as fast as I was before. Like all these stories, that wasn't necessarily true, but I definitely believed them. I had fear in me, fear that if I do this again, then I'm just going to get injured. It was like this reoccurring theme.
Mm.
And I ended up leaving there, left the Royal Marines, went back home, and I just started taking BPC 157, which is a peptide for injury prevention, helps like muscle repair, etc. So I just started putting that in the knee. Started taking testosterone illegally as well, but recovered like super quick. But inside my head didn't recover. Like physically the injury did, but inside my head I was thinking like, oh, I can't go back and do this in case my knee gets injured, or I can't go back and do that. And I stopped running from that point. So I was maybe 17 there, maybe 18. I stopped running from that point until January this year. So and that's how long I had off running or doing. I used to do squats, but would never go heavy. Super scared if I went heavy and it was just a snap, or you see these videos on YouTube where, and I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
gonna happen to me, and um, yeah, just got fear. So let's talk a bit about that. Like, what's your thoughts on fear, like grabbing you after an injury, and this like loss of identity, like, oh, I don't know who I am anymore because this person that I thought I was isn't it, and so on and so forth. Yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it can be really difficult, especially if you're so active and so into a sport, and then it just gets taken away from you like that. Yeah, really difficult to sort of deal with. I think for the identity stuff, if your athletic identity is what it can be called is really really strong, so you've been playing in a sport all your life. As young, you were really sort of promising, got into like an academy or something like that, and that's sort of what you've been completely invested into,
Mm.
and then it can just be taken away from you like that. Injuries can, we've got to just accept they can just happen freakishly. Sometimes it can be someone's fault or your fault,
Mm.
but a lot of the time it's completely out of your control what it can happen. So yeah, you've got to sort of just accept that that can happen, and it's part of the life or the journey that you're on. And then if your athletic identity is so strong and you don't really have anything else going on, then when that gets taken away from you, it can be really, really difficult, frustrating. You can feel very lost and sort of not knowing what to do with yourself. Like you were saying, you can feel sort of pride in yourself being a really fit person and good at a sport. But then when that's taken away from you, it can be quite painful to have that pride ripped away, and you feel sort of quite bare without it. So yeah, I think helping people with that is letting them sort of see and realize and understand that their identity isn't just reliant on one sport or being physically active or anything like that. It's kind of like their true self or identity is above that, and one of the things they do is sport or be active. And when that gets taken away, it doesn't affect who they really are, their true self above that. And then also seeing, what other things are they doing? How are they as a friend, a brother? What other interests do they have outside of sport? Maybe it's musical instruments or something like that, or art, singing. There's always something else that people are interested in and sort of have on their mind as well. So kind of tapping into those things. And then injury is also an opportunity to develop. You have a lot more time on your hands, whereas you wouldn't have before. So you can actually see that as an opportunity to invest your time into something else that you think might be more useful for you. Maybe it's like professionally, or a hobby that you haven't had time to invest into.
Mm.
And then also refocusing your attention on getting fitter and better in the best possible way. So yeah, it's really tricky for people to sort of deal with that stuff if they've been so invested in their athletic identity. And I think it can also happen not just with injuries, but things like retiring from sports or having to stop sports, like we said earlier as well on the your experience of the military. And I think when people sort of have long careers in the military and they start really young, and then they come out of it, they can feel sort of completely lost with what to do, and reintegrating into civilian life can be really difficult for people. So it's kind of a similar concept with the identity stuff there, I think.
Well, I wonder why we put like this. I wonder why we put that on ourselves. Why does that happen? Why do we? Well, I say we, maybe not you, but I definitely put like this. Um, I just want to be good at something. I just want to be good at something. And when I am good at something, I want to give it my all. And when I give it my all, it becomes who I am. It is a part of who I am. So I feel like I'm one of those guys that sort of put all my eggs in one basket. Like if I'm gonna do something, I want to do it to the best of my ability. I want to put all my eggs in the basket. I want to give it everything, not leave any like section to chance. So maybe that is my downfall, or maybe that is the downfall of people sometimes when this happens. And they put all their eggs in one basket. So is their whole identity, because like even with the running
Mm.
situation. So obviously I started running in January. Just got super ADHD thing as well, but got super obsessed with it. Was watching 3 documentaries a day on running. Like, bust out buying all the running, like bought running shoes, bought like a running vest, soft water bottles, running cap. All the gear, no idea. Week 2, and yeah, it just become my identity straight away. I was like, do you know what? I'm just gonna just get really good at running, and I just give it my everything. And then business obviously took over a bit. I've just got to start thinking about getting the Brotherhood global, and start pushing this men's mental health community to the masses. Because I feel like we are really doing something really special here, and we've changed so many lives already. I feel like I want to do that. So I went back to started working a bit more, which then took a toll on my fitness side of things. Like I love the gym, I love running, but last 4 weeks since I've been, set up a limited company properly and set up the podcast and set up all these different types of media outlets to try and hit as many people as possible. The running's almost took like a back burner, and I can even see myself getting a bit self conscious now, because I'm not putting in the work. I'm not. Well, if anyone was to say any, like, say, derogatory comments to me in the past, because I knew I was going to the gym, because I knew I was working hard, it'd just be like, sort of whisper in the wind. Whereas, like, if someone like says something like, "Oh, you've lost some size," or "Oh, you lost a bit of weight," you're looking good. I'm like, "Oh shit, let's go. I haven't fucking been to the gym." I've sort of like I lost my identity. I lost that gym identity. I've lost that trust or that support in myself. I've lost that. Knowing that I'm doing that, I've lost that. So yeah, maybe that is the problem. Is people put all their eggs in this one basket, and then when they then don't have that thing, like who the hell are they? Starts playing on their mind, or
Yeah, I think with it, there's certainly benefits to putting all your eggs in one basket and having like a strong identity on one thing, because you're completely focused on that one thing. You're going to get better at it. You're going to get better at it faster because you're completely focused, not distracted on anything else. So like motivation will be the highest when you're like that. I think there'll be countless stories of professional athletes and sports people at the top of their game who, just like Tiger Woods, for example, he had a golf club in his hands when he was like 3 years old or younger or something like that. And, parents just pushing kids to be really good at sports, and that's all they ever knew. And then occasionally they do make it to the top. So you can always look at those examples and say, well, this person did that, so I'm going to do that. So yeah, it's definitely not a case of no one should ever, identify strongly with one thing. That's certainly not it. It's more about being aware and understanding that that is not all who you are. Who you truly are is kind of above that. And then if unfortunate incidents like injury and retirement happen, then you can kind of cognitively be flexible and sort of go with the flow of that and understand that this is just the path that it's taking, and kind of try and just be in the present moment of, okay, this has happened, accept it, and now this is what I've got to focus on, and this is what my attention shifts to, in a different way. So yeah,
go on, brother.
No, I was gonna say the same thing.
Say for example, I like. Let's just use me, finishing this running situation. Say for example, I come to you, and I said, "Hey Toby, look, I'm having a bit of a difficult time here. Like, I've had to stop running because I needed to work more. I've got to provide for my family and save and do all these things. I've got this sort of loss of identity. What happens then? What happens if I was to come to you and say that? How do you? Yeah, what's your next steps?
Yeah, so if someone sort of approaches me to like work individually, there's sort of a process that you follow with everyone, doesn't matter what sort of sport it is, or their situation. There's kind of a general process that I follow. So it starts with like what's called a needs analysis. So that's really understanding the person, what their needs are, their sort of background in sports, away from sports, what they're doing currently, what their goals, ambitions, dreams, or like the big vision is for people, and really trying to get to the bottom of what they really want to get out of it. Because people have what's called presenting problems that they know about and they say, but then that might not always be the actual problem. There might be something underneath that they're not quite sure of, they can't see, or they're sort of in a bit of denial about it. They don't want that to be the problem, so they present another problem. So that's the kind of first step. And then it goes to sort of working on, if you do an intervention, so some sort of mental skill, not always that you'll do a mental skill. Some sports psychologists will always do specific skills and they'll sort of swear by them. But for me at the moment, I'm not really set on any of them, as sort of using them regularly with everything. So choosing an intervention, sort of formulating everything together. Maybe you'll just do sort of not a mental skill intervention. You'll do more of like a therapy approach of like, like ACT, CBT, different sort of
acceptance and commitment therapy stuff.
Yeah, and CBT, different sort of talking approaches like that, maybe reframing things cognitively, or just doing like acceptance, mindful stuff
Mm.
around it. And then, yeah, tracking how that goes, seeing how they find it, adapting things if something's not quite right, or changing it, trying something different, and sort of monitoring it as it goes along. And then getting to a point where either they're satisfied with how it's going and you sort of stop working together, or maybe there'll be something else they want to then focus on. That's kind of the general process of how it goes. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. I yeah, I quite like the idea of therapy in sport. You know, there's many times in sport where things have happened, or you've got a niggle and stuff like that, and that self doubt starts to creep in, and if that can sort of get nipped in the bud pretty quickly, or even just like a reframe. I often do that with I'm coaching clients as well, where even just picking them up on the way that they speak about themselves can just be super super life changing. Super
Mm.
life changing. It's probably the same with sports there, where if I'm saying like, uh, oh, I will never be able to do this again, or anything like that, like just picking that up and saying like, realistically, like let's say they've lost both the legs or something, it might be a bit different. You might not be able to run, but you got prosthetics and that now. I'm sure you could, I suppose, but
Yeah.
if the injury is severe, but yeah, just simple things like where people like get a niggle or something like that, and just reframing it. Yeah, really good. The other
Yeah.
thing that come up for me when you was talking there is, um, do you think like injuries could be from something that's happened previous rather than it being directly? So let's say I'm running and I pull my hamstring. Could that be because of stress from work, not necessarily because of the run?
I think potentially, yeah, I think there's could be a bridge there. I think the mind body, this kind of could get philosophical here.
Like, send it. I'm
But
all about philosophy.
have you heard of non-duality?
So, do you know what? So funny you say that. I haven't until 2 weeks ago when my friend Miracle Mike put it in the group chat.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. I don't, I'm not set on anything at the moment, but that's kind of what I'm looking at and quite interested in at the moment. It's non-duality,
Could you explain
and
about
that's kind of
what it is?
yeah. So the basic name is non-dual, so not two is what it translates as. So everyone and everything is kind of one combined consciousness. It's one whole. So there's no separation between like mind, body, people, objects, anything like that. Everything we like experience is we're experiencing inside of us in a way. So, for example, if I closed my eyes and then like tried to say what's on the table, I couldn't say anything. So I don't know if anything's there. But
Mm.
then if I open my eyes, I can see what's, my phone's there, water, whatever. But I'm experiencing that inside of me. So everything you experience is happening inside of you,
Mm.
even in like the objects and everything like that. That's kind of it. Yeah, I don't fully understand it. I'm still sort of trying to learn about it. It's quite tricky to get your head around it, but I'm really interested in that. But to go back to the question, I think there could be, stress and outside things can cause like tightness. I think it's more of like a psychobiological kind of a combination of the two approach, which I'm not too read up on or anything like that. But I think there definitely could be links there between psychological stresses and trauma and things, and then showing up in our body in different ways. Because I don't really think there is a separation completely. I don't think we're two elements. We are kind of all together, and one thing will show up in another way. I think, if you look at someone's body language, for example, just walking down the street, if you see someone who's got like shoulders slumped over, eye bags, everything like that, they look, sad. They don't look good, and that's kind of a mental sign that they're sad. You could use the word depressed, sort of anxiety, things like that. then if you see someone sort of shoulders back, head up, looking around, more of a glow and a smile, that's showing more positive psychological effects.
Mm.
So yeah, they do. It kind of does show up a mirror inside the body, I think, a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. There's a good guy called the Human Garage. I don't know if you ever seen him on Instagram.
No.
He he basically believes that similar to that of the non-duality concept, but more that um, our experiences are stored within our fascia or within our body, and that they are released through certain movements, stretches, or compression, tightness, relaxation, and that maybe the almost oxymoron of doing them simultaneously or one then the next, you know. Bit like that, the hot and cold thesis on sauna, ice bath, like getting in that,
Mm.
the same as like compression and expansion, like compressing it, then expanding, softening, coming back to the breath, whatever. He's a really good guy. He does a lot on like chronic pain, that sort of stuff. Um, really good guy.
Mm.
He I think he's onto something there. I feel that like if I look back at my injury, how did I get injured? Right, I did everything in my power to go up properly to the point where I was at peak fitness. Probably 3 or 4 weeks into the Royal Marines training. So I didn't want to get into peak fitness first because I knew that I wouldn't be able to sustain that for 32 weeks. So I waited till I was about 4 or 5 weeks in, so I was like at the peak, and then I could try and sustain that for about 20, 25 weeks. And then once I've left unit or training, go to unit, then I can recover, do a lot of strength conditioning. So like I look back and think, right, what did I do wrong? I've often done like somewhat meditations on this. Like, where did I go wrong? What did I change? What did I do? And I ate correctly. My psychology was correct. I'm a massive believer in your thoughts can manifest into reality almost. Like if I'm saying to myself like, oh, you're gonna get injured, you're gonna get injured, you're gonna get injured, you're bound to get injured. Um,
Mm.
the same way that oh no, I'm strong, I'm strong, I'm strong. Yeah, my recovery is good, amazing. Like you tell yourself this. My psychology was fine. I feel like I had a crap upbringing, so I think that was on the back of my mind all the time. Like all this fear, this grief, this pain, this suffering. Um, that played on my psyche. So although my psychology was correct in terms of going for this run or recovering or doing this 20-mile run with 50-kilogram backpack and doing the shooting exercise and crawling through freezing cold water and getting in mud, sound. But every night that I went to bed or when we wasn't doing those things, those little voices in the back of your head creeped in, like all the things that happened, like replaying these memories, a bit of PTSD maybe, going on. I feel like that had 100% had an impact on my injury. And then the minute it happened, I feel like I just crashed. Like caught up with me. I feel. So yeah, the Human Garage, he's a good guy. Check him out. He does like all
Mm.
this facial work. He like squeezes, and people start crying. I don't know if you've experienced that on your therapy. Like, people have a injury. This one guy, he put a video on a reel, and he gets on, and someone goes, "Oh my God, you're that Human Garage on Instagram." He said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, I've got sciatica." So he's like, okay. He said, let's just do the stretch. He was on an aeroplane, right? And he's put him in his chair and he's like pushing like opposites, pushing his shoulder back or something, and doing this thing. And he puts his knuckle in his bum cheek or something, and he says, right, breathe in, do this, do this. This guy just bursts out crying, just like starts
Wow.
crying his eyes out, and he gets. I'm sure he gets upset. I'll have to go back and watch it. I'm sure he gets upset, and he's almost like released something. It's almost like this injury is then gone because the thought process has changed. Um,
Mm.
maybe that's the topic to discuss is thought process in recovery or thought process after an injury. Like what do you so I know obviously a bit about acceptance and commitment therapy. I know a bit about CBT. I did a CBT diploma myself. I did a basics in psychotherapy and counselling diploma too. So I get a bit about it, but how does one say, for example, they're not coming to you, they're not going to come to Toby and get therapy, or they're going to not come and get this sort of one-to-one work. What do they do? Like, how do they change that themselves? Like, what tasks can they complete? Because a lot of the injuries, people don't go anywhere. They just sit home like, oh, my back's gone, or something like that. What can they start to do to feel better? What can they implement?
Yeah, so I, on this topic, I align more with acceptance commitment therapy as like a way of working through it, sort of thing. So, yeah, the first step is kind of accepting where you are and understanding what's happened. You can spend a lot of time and effort and mental energy kind of arguing and being frustrated and sort of using mental energy to sort of, combat it, sort of thing. But if you just sort of accept how it is and understand that these things can happen, there are random life events that you can't control happening all the time. Some argue that, everything's completely random and you can't control it. So that's kind of the first step you've got to get to, understanding that. And then sort of exploring who you are outside of this injury. So you can be upset and that's okay, and understand those feelings, but what else are you? Husband, son, brother, sister, friend to people. What do those people think of you? Do they just see you as this person? Or how else do they see you? And understanding that, knowing who you can reach out to and have your social support group as well is very useful. Trying to not see yourself stuck in a situation, which you can with injuries as well, especially if you kind of get re-injuries of the same thing. You kind of feel very stuck in this one situation and you're not moving forward in any way towards what you want to be. So trying to see this as not somewhere that you're stuck, but is part of the journey and the path that you're on. Whether you like it or not, you kind of got to accept that it is and it's going that way. Another thing, sort of ACT wise, is seeing if you're struggling with like thoughts and feelings, and kind of getting into sort of negative loops and things like that. It's kind of trying to separate yourself from your thoughts and feelings. So not seeing yourself as your thoughts and feelings and saying, I am this or I think this, and seeing yourself as I am feeling this way at the moment kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not sort of internalizing it, but trying to separate yourself as the context. That's kind of a big step, I think, for dealing with it. There's a good analogy that I like to say. There's two actually, but one is you're the bus driver and you're driving to your destination, and then your thoughts and feelings, whether they're good or bad, whatever, are all the passengers who come on and off the bus and they go about their business. You can't really control when they come on or when they come off. And regardless of what's going on, you just accept it and you keep going to your destination where you want to go. It's that sort of committed action to still doing what you want to do. That's a kind of a good way I like to describe it to people that helps them understand. Or there's the blue sky. So you as yourself are the blue sky, and that never changes. And then the thoughts and feelings are the weather and the clouds, good and bad, and it comes and goes. You can't really control it. It's going to come, it's going to go. And you're that constant blue sky above everything. Kind of trying to get them to understand that and see that is a bit better, and then having like a committed action. So bringing them back to the present moment and thinking, what do I need to do right now that's going to serve me best for my goal, my mission, what my big vision is. Trying to have that present moment awareness is kind of how it ends, and then they figure out what they need to do. That's kind of what I would say. Yeah,
I think that those sort of analogies can be used in anything, even outside of sport. So someone said that analogy about the bus to me before. You just jogged my memory there, so thank you. It's been a long time since I heard that. So yeah, that's really amazing. I find stuff like mindfulness practices. People are not going to take part all the time in meditation, etc. But man, it works. It really just does work. Like especially with people that I'm sort of working with day to day, they're more into these esoteric concepts, these mindfulness, holistic practices. But even for people that are not into that, like, honestly, it will just change your life, especially if you, sorry, especially if you have, you know, anxiety or these sorts of feelings where you get stuck in your head. Coming back to that present moment and observing the thoughts objectively, it's a game changer, mate. Like, seriously,
Mm.
it's a game changer. Like, I'm very um I'll never just believe anything. I have to experience something myself, and then I can't deny it because I'm like, no, that's my experience. And I always thought like meditation, all that was just this woo woo spiritual bullshit that all these hippies used to talk about, and it'd get on my nut. But the more I started like delving into those practices, the more I went down the hippie route myself. But yeah, I find meditation. I was working with doing Joe Dispenza's meditation. He's a doctor, pretty cool guy. He has loads of stuff on YouTube, but um, started doing his meditations in the morning. 40 minutes it is for this one that I downloaded. It just changed my life. It really did just change my life. Like, I wouldn't say I'm perfect, but I'm definitely a lot better. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's definitely been improvement, and that's a great start. He was one aspect of the meditation, but I then started looking at other things, mindfulness practices, like somatic exercises, returning back to the body. Um, but yeah, even just as a start, like, people say, "Oh, I can't meditate." Like, there's no such thing as you can't meditate. Like, it's practically impossible not to be able to meditate. Like, oh, I have too many thoughts. Brilliant, well done for recognizing them all. Like, that's what I say. It's this. Um, so yeah, coming back to the body and viewing these thoughts objectively is a real winner. Really, is a game
Yeah.
changer.
Yeah. What's like I'm just curious,
Yeah.
what's like the most common issue that guys come with you with? Is there like one that stands out more than others or
Yeah, loss of meaning and purpose. That is number one, top tier, number one. Yeah, I would say out of the last 3 years, I've helped probably over 100 men, and I'd say, God, at least 80% of them have a problem with loss of meaning or purpose.
well,
Not, it doesn't have to be. I almost call it like a triage system. So like tier ones would be like have full loss of identity, full loss of self, full loss of meaning, full loss of purpose, don't have a clue who they are, where they're going, why they're doing it. Very somewhat on the nihilistic scale, pretty much on that pinnacle edge. But then the tier three would be someone who's somewhat happy with life, likes just bobbing around doing the thing, but doesn't really know where they're going, sort of needs a bit of advice or help. So it's on a scale, sliding scale. I can't just say, but that is usually the main thing. So what what I do is I teach them about how to find meaning and purpose. I'm actually just writing up a workshop at the minute, which is going to be 2 or 3 hour workshop, 4 hours if you do the partners exercises, but talking about meaning, purpose, and how to find it. I think that people have just completely lost their way, and they don't even know how to find meaning. Like, people say, "Oh, well, just try everything." Well, sometimes we don't have enough money to try everything. All the things that I want to
yeah.
try, like, I can't just go out and spend money on a jet ski and go jet ski tomorrow. Like, I wish I could. That'd be amazing. I'd definitely find meaning in that. But so I've sort of devised things that don't really cost any money. Things that is the way and it's very focused around men. So like, I'm not saying that this same framework that I've put together would be for women as well, because it definitely wouldn't be. But yeah, I think one of the ways is, I'll just go through a few of them, but
Yeah,
one of the
sure.
ways that people find meaning and purpose is this idea of the flow state, also known as getting in the zone. Very common with sports people.
Yeah.
So when you're playing football, rugby, any sport that you're into, you are 100% in the flow state pretty much the whole time, apart from half time when the whistle goes and you're grabbing a drink. That's probably that's your initiation to come back. But when the whistle gets blown again, we teach about this thing called, and this is the second one, which is liminal space, which is the space in between the start and end of something. So like a rugby game, you have the first whistle, that's your start, then your second whistle, which is half time. that's liminal space is in between that. So when you're in liminal space, you're more inclined to be in the flow state. So when those two things go together, you find meaning and purpose. So mainly meaning, but purpose can be sort of a branch off that. If you are, say, super fit, super healthy, wanting to be a rugby player, then you found your purpose within the meaning. You know, but they're not. Correlation doesn't mean causation. So if you find meaning, that doesn't mean that you're going to have purpose too. That just means that you found meaning. But so that's two. The second one is the third one is a thing that I called signal detection, and the fourth goes simultaneously with that, and that's called signal response. So what happens is, and this is very common for men. So men are more inclined to see an issue in the future with somebody or something health wise. So an example of that would be, let's say we're walking on a thing, and I notice that your water bottle it has low water, and we're going for a long hike. I'll say, "Oh, bro, your water bottle's low. Do you just want to grab a drink here? Because obviously we're going to go there." So that's signal detection and signal response. This gives you meaning because it feels like you're serving something greater than yourself, which comes to number 5, which is being in service to something greater than yourself. So it could be a community, could be your family, could be friends, could be anything really, anything that you find
Yeah.
that is greater than yourself. There's a quote by a guy called Dr. John Vivacki, who I base a lot of my work around. He's a really good cognitive scientist and philosopher. And he says the question that he asks you to ask yourself when looking at meaning and purpose is, what do you want to exist even if you don't? That's the question. So, when I sit and reflect on that, it's 100% the Brotherhood. It's helping people. It's supporting men. It's building. I want to build a company that trains people up in facilitation, trains people up in helping men. And I've pretty much been doing. I don't like using the word therapy because I'm technically not a therapist. I'm more of a coach. But I've been working with people for 10 years this year. Like, and someone said to me before, would you rather work with someone who's read therapist books, or done stuff at university but never worked on people, or worked with someone that's worked with people for 10 years? I said, well, yeah, the latter. He said, well, exactly. Yeah, there's your answer. So I've sort of like built this. I've sort of built this repertoire of information from people. So it's like this real world experience. So I'm not a trained therapist. I've never gone to university or anything like that. But I love therapy. I love helping people. I love researching why people are that way. I collect information from my own one-to-one coaching sessions and sort of grid it and put it into a spreadsheet almost, like, and say, oh,
Yeah.
this is a common theme through my last 15 clients, and I'm sort of figuring it out as I go as well, which I think is pretty cool. There's a few more to the meaning and purpose thing, but I don't want to give them all away, as no one will come to the workshop. So, so that's the most common theme is meaning and purpose. The second one, the second sort of thing I would say it's probably this societal pressure to provide for your family and at the expense of your own mental health. But then that's this perpetual cycle of not being able to do the things that you want to do because you've got to provide, but providing somewhat gives you enough that you then don't want to do anything else, but it doesn't fulfill all your cups. So it's somewhat interlinked with meaning and purpose, but it is its own perpetual cycle. So that's quite hard, and this is the problem with capitalism. I'm going on a massive rant now.
No, it's interesting.
This is the problem with capitalism now, is that we are so designed over the last generation that we're almost forced to do this thing that we know we don't really want to do, but we have to do it to survive. So it's survival. And I'll just go back to this point before I ask you another question. Is another point which is really, really interesting that I found is there are actually two types of purpose. So the first purpose is what I call innate purpose. It's innate within us, which is pretty much survival. So you need a house, water, food, community. That's pretty much it. If you don't have community, that's not too bad. You can still survive off those things and feel fulfilled, especially if you're more of an introvert. But you definitely need shelter, food, water. Once those three are sufficient. And I don't mean just scraping the edge. I mean like you've got to have sufficiency. You've got to be able to, not be panicking about it all day every day. It's got to be enough food there that you can eat when you're hungry, enough water that you can drink when you're thirsty, and a space warm enough that you feel comfortable. Once those three are met, what happens then is then you can choose purpose. So when I mean choice, I don't mean looking through a pages booklet and going, oh, I'll do that today because that's my purpose. I mean like sort of figuring it out using a framework, but it's a choice then. Like I choose to do this therapy. I could just work my normal 9 to 5 job, but I feel like this is more my purpose because it gives me all those things that I teach in the course. So if your first one isn't met and you're doing your second one, you're going to have a disconnection. So even though you are doing your purpose, which is what you've destined to do, you will not feel fulfilled because your basic necessities aren't being met. So it's gonna be a disconnection. So you have to go back to square one. So any client that comes to me and they're like, I'm doing this job and like I really love it, but I'm just like this all day. I say, okay, do you have enough food on your table? Do you have a house? Do you have enough water? And they're like, well, no, like this job don't really pay me enough right now. It's usually with holistic people, really. So they're like, I want to do this holistic therapy, but I don't earn enough from it that I can't do it all the time. What do I do? And I say, okay, well, do you have enough food and water? Oh no, I'm eating out of a food bank this week, right? Well, this is the issue. Like what you need to do is subsidize the choice to fill the innate purpose. So then when you then do your choice, you feel fully fulfilled because the basic being met and sort of work your way over to doing that full time. But so those are the top two, I would say. Those are.
Yeah, it's interesting.
What have
Yeah,
you?
what do you think like causes the lack of purpose and meaning in men?
Good question. Good question, mate.
Because obviously they're coming to you with a problem of not having no meaning and purpose, but like why do some people find it, do you think, and other people don't? And then what's the point at where they think, oh, I don't have it, or have that realization?
Good question. I think meaning and purpose. I think because we are malleable beings in a sense of we change so much. Like I'm definitely not the person I was 6 months ago. I'm definitely not the person I was 4 years ago. I'm definitely not the person I was 10 years ago. So I feel like if I was to stick to my meaning and purpose that I did as a child, I'd be in the Royal Marines now, depressed as fuck. So I think what happens is people don't move with the times themselves, that their newfound information, and they stick to this one thing that they thought they wanted to do back in the day, but now they've changed, but they still feel like they have to do it. They have this sense of, and this comes back to the issue of providing, especially if you're a man. Let's say you think, right, I'm going to go to university, I'm going to study psychology, become a psychologist. You then become a psychologist and you think, do you know what, I fucking hate this job. But now you have kids and now you have a family to pay for.
Yeah.
So now you've got to stick in this job because the fear of leaving where you are and becoming someone new outweighs, providing for the family, let's say. So you've got to provide for your family because if you don't, then you're going to be a nobody who can't give his partner and kids food. So I think this is it. Feel if people were to follow their meaning and purpose or their passions or things that feel correct in their body, I don't mean like a quick dopamine hit or a quick dopamine rush. I mean something truly to the core that your body thrives on and lives on all day, every day. That is true meaning and purpose. So when people then, a psychologist and they're there and they think, I really don't like where I'm at right now. There's too many external factors. If they had the opportunity to just leave and start someone new, I would say, yeah, go for it. Don't sit on it for a while, because life has peaks and troughs too. Like there's times where I fucking hate being a therapist, working one-to-one, doing therapy, or offering workshops. I hate it. It drives me nuts. But there's majority of the time, I'd say 99% of the time, it's amazing. But there's days where I think I don't want to come on this call right now. I really don't want to come on this call. I'm tired. I've had a difficult day at work. I work an 8-hour job anywhere, and then I come home, work 5 to 6 hours on my business every day, 7 days a week. It's tiring. It's so tiring. But then when I have conversations like this with people like yourself, I'm like, this is why I do this thing, because someone's going to benefit from our conversation here. Someone's going to listen to this and be like, fuck, Naoki, thanks so much. Or thanks, Toby. Yeah, I never thought about ACT. I've actually just hurt my knee and So like the thing that we're doing is worthwhile, you know. So back
Yeah.
to meaning and purpose, even though initially sometimes you might be like, "Oh, I don't want to do that," when then you do the thing that you're destined for, it feels right. And if you don't feel like that, it's because you're not meant to be doing it, man. Like if it's bringing anxiety, stress. When I say stress, I mean like prolonged stress, and it doesn't alleviate the feeling of it. Then you need to look at doing something else because maybe that ain't it, or maybe it is it, but it's just it's framed wrong. Like this is the other thing is
Mhm.
people never get proper coaching. So they'll go to the mates who are, have different attachment styles. They'll go to their mates who just, can't even control their own nervous system or regulate their own nervous system. So they'll go to the mates and say, "Oh, do you know what? I'm really enjoying work," and they'll be like, "Oh, fuck it off." Like, whoa, like let's not jump to conclusion. Okay, why do you hate work? At what point during the day? What's your environment when you decided that you hated work? Oh, it's when I'm on this machine. Okay, what is it about the machine that you don't like? Oh, I don't like it because I've got to stand in the same place to do that. Okay, so you like movement. Yeah, yeah, I love movement. Okay, how can you incorporate movement while on the machine? Oh, I can't. Okay, what's the machine cycle? The machine cycle is I type this thing in, and then I've got to wait 30 seconds for it to press that. Okay, so you've got 30 seconds there that you can move around. You can go for this walk, you can do something. So it's like working with what's available, not necessarily saying that this isn't it because it isn't, you can't control the environment, but it's like, how do we sort of maneuver or make this situation more malleable to fit your meaning and purpose. The minute he starts adding a bit of movement in on those days that is on the machine, his life then becomes better because he's able to do the thing that he likes doing. Because there's things that I don't like doing in coaching. Like constantly prepping things for the next thing and the next thing, the next thing. I'd love to set some frameworks up where I could teach the same thing for a month. So I could like
Yeah.
it wouldn't be as full on. So, but how do I work around that? Okay, well, what I do is I write up these workshops, and then when I want to then do another workshop, say if I've got 10 workshops, I can do one workshop at a time, 1 month after another, and then go back to the start. Because by then I've got new people that will want the first workshop. So I don't always have to add to them or cause myself more stress or the thing that I don't like doing. I can do all the things in a 1 hour or over a few months, and then just go back and sort of re-implement them. So
Yeah.
that's also a part of the problem I find is that people are just so quick to sort of uh, the, back to the feelings thing. They don't view the situation objectively. They're so caught up in the emotion of wanting to get out of the situation or hating the situation or not finding the meaning, not finding the purpose that they think that that isn't it. Um, but let's have a look at that. Let's do a bit of coaching. Let's look at your perspective. Let's look at how you're talking about. Let's talking about the job. How does it feel in the body? What is it providing? What isn't it providing? Let's look at all those aspects. If then we come to the conclusion that it's better that you do something else, then do something else. But I feel like I feel um, we should be looking at other things first before people do that. Definitely.
Yeah.
I hope that covered your question. Sorry if it didn't.
No, it's really yeah, it's interesting just to hear the work you do, and like yeah, the issues that people come to you with and things like that, and sort of how you like deal with them and where you get your information from and things like that. It's just really interesting to me.
Yeah, I usually. Have you ever heard of Gestalt therapy?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so usually I sort of try and incorporate some like Gestalt therapy within there. So the way that I come across Gestalt therapy was obviously I love philosophy, and Gestalt theory is a philosophical concept, from like 1980 or something. And when I come across that, I was like, wow, this would be amazing for therapy. And then typed in Gestalt therapy and found out, oh shit, it's actually a thing already. So I sort of did a bit of research on that, and I really like how that works. But mainly I just do coaching to be honest. I just sort of I don't get caught up in people's stories. Like some people, and you probably learn this as a therapist yourself that you can't get emotionally involved in the situation of the person. Like otherwise, you start
Yeah.
giving personal experiences and all these sorts of things. And that's great. Sometimes it's relatable as a coach, but I like just sitting on the wall, like that sitting on the wall and just pointing out. Oh well, 2 minutes ago you said this. I was just wondering, why now it's changed to that. How did you get to that position? And just asking them questions, just question them.
Yeah.
They come up with their own answers. Like you don't have to really give them anything. You just question them, or like an example of that is I always say like what I notice, what I see, what I hear. Like there's like three sentences that I use all the time. What I'm hearing is this.
Hmm.
And they go, oh yeah, yeah, that is. Oh, what I'm seeing or what I'm noticing is this theme of X, and then they go, oh yeah, like it's because I'm not involved in I'm not emotionally involved in their story. They can be crying all this, and I'm like, oh man, I feel somewhat empathy, but I'm like, don't get in their story. Wise, I'm too in it. Sit on the outside and
Yeah,
okay, yeah. What I'm noticing is
yeah,
this happened, that happened. Is that a common theme in your life? Oh, yeah, it is a common theme actually. Oh, no. Let's look at the cues for this. Okay, now let's look at the somatic exercises. Like what's the sensation in the body when that happens? Is it pain? Is grief? Tightness in the chest? Okay, let's do some breath work. So then we incorporate breath work. Yeah, I think like as a I look at it more holistically, diet, everything.
yeah,
Yeah, exercise, outdoors, the lot. But yeah, those are really the two. Meaning and purpose is the biggest, I reckon.
yeah,
Obviously, you get loads of people with drug addictions. That's common. I think addiction is common anyway. I think every single person on the planet Earth is addicted to something. I don't feel like again back to this triage system. I feel like tier one is like heroin meth addict who's injecting loads every day and on the verge of overdose. Tier
mm,
three might be you've got to have your coffee in the morning otherwise you can't wake up. Both are addicts, in their own right. So we get a lot of people that do that, and when proposed, like even anxiety, people come to me and like, oh, I suffer from anxiety. I say, okay, have you been to your GP? No, I don't want to go to GP. Don't like doctors. Okay, what information would you like from me to tell you, or what do you need from me? Oh, I want to figure out why I'm that way. Okay, so I'll first ask like what stimulants they take. So, oh yeah, got to drink coffee every morning. Like, if you have anxiety, you should not be drinking coffee. It's like the number one thing. Like anything that increases heart rate should just be banned from
mm,
your life. Um, and I say this from personal experience. I suffered with anxiety for years. I was actually misdiagnosed ADHD, but um, yeah, I got like I'd get stuck in these thought loops, believe something that wasn't true, then like get real angry super quick, and then I'd be like, why have I just got real angry? But that was like the ADHD angry outburst, and then I'd like get super anxious that people are gonna hate me, and God, it was a fucking mess, mate.
yeah.
But once I stopped drinking caffeine, oh my God, I
Made a
was
difference.
massive. I was having 4 cups of coffee a day. Like people should not be drinking that much caffeine with anxiety. Like and yeah, probably had and learn things that actually make a difference. Like you probably do this on CBT, but I teach clients like that five things you can smell, 5 things you can taste, 5 things you can hear, 5 things you can touch. It's probably the easiest exercise to do ever, and it works. Sometimes I even get them to do like especially if they're more into the holistic stuff, I get them to carry around like a essential oil or something with them, something that brings them back to the body, something that reminds them of something good. So like
Mm,
lavender might be reminds them of their nana. Say this is one of mine. I had lavender, so you can make your own like the Albus oil smell nose things. You can make
yeah,
them yourself. You can put like buy the cotton pads, put some essential oils on them, twist them on, and then it's just like the Albus oil, but you make your own. So what I used to do growing up as a kid was take them out, fill it with lavender, and then close it back up again. And then every time I felt anxious or worried or stressed, I'd smell this thing, and it would remind me of my nana, which was associated with love, compassion, nurture, kindness, these sorts of things. So what I say to people and is if you're feeling like that, okay, what smell do you associate with love, compassion, kindness, this sort of thing? Oh, rose. Okay, brilliant. Right, what you need to do is go collect some form of rose smelling thing, rose bracelet, a rose ring, a rose necklace, a rose whatever it might be. It's either got a smell of rose, it's got to feel like a rose, or it's got to look like a rose in some way. Because then one of those 5 things are when you then use that when your cue happens or your cue is triggered, let's say tightness of chest and anxiety, you can grab your thing and somatically you'll be reminded of the memory that it's associated with or the person or the place or it's just a really good way to getting back to the body super quick, like happens.
yeah. It's like a cue sort of thing,
Yeah,
using it as like
yeah, happens almost instantly. Yeah.
a mental cue. Yeah, yeah. Cool.
Bro, I'll just ask you a few before we wrap up. Unless you've got anything else to say, I'll just ask you a few questions about what the brothers have
Yeah, go
mentioned,
for it.
and Yeah. So, when an athlete loses their ability to perform through injury, what happens to their identity? I feel like we've covered that a bit.
I think, yeah, probably covered that a bit.
Harvey asked, "How can we reframe the experience of injury, not of something bad? How do you live with it?" Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of touched on it a bit, but if you want to go down the route of sort of reframing, you can kind of see it as more of a learning opportunity. So you've got that more time on your hands that you didn't have before. So you're not playing sport. You can either put that into your recovery and then put that time into learning new skills, hobbies, interests. Professionally, you can do that. So you kind of reallocating the time that you've got and your attention into different things that you find interesting, that you couldn't do before. So seeing it as more of like an opportunity than a difficult challenge or a threat, or a bad experience is kind of how you could reframe it, I think. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks, brother. Harvey also asked, when someone is in that dark place of injury, is it our role to support them? Or is there a danger of stealing their journey by trying to help when part of the healing is learning to become who you are?
It's an interesting question.
Great question.
That's
Yeah,
a good
he worded
Yeah.
it a bit like ever so slightly different, but I've sort of thought that's what he meant by the question, which seems to be.
Yeah. So yeah, good question. I think you can help someone to a certain degree,
Yeah.
but it is correct at the end that it is the individual's sort of not responsibility, but it's up to them to go through the. No one can do it for them,
Yeah.
sort of thing. So you can offer help, advice, someone to talk to, sounding board, or if they come to you, be there to support them however they want. But at the end of the day, they need to realise that no one's going to do it for them. It is their journey, and it's kind of a journey of sort of self-understanding and self-discovery. So finding out what works best for them, what direction they need to go in next. Always with, if they've got support, that's great, helping them. But they need to make sure that they know it's up to them and no one's going to do it for them. So yeah, good question.
Yeah, great question. Actually, I was just thinking there about. I remember trying to help someone before. Um, Where's where I live in Hull? There's this place called Holderness Road, which is like this real long road. And when there used to be a TSB bank down there. I don't know if it's still there, but this woman was like trying to get over the step, the curb, and she was in a wheelchair. And I went over to her help mate, lost it. Don't fucking help me, I was like,
Wow.
oh god, fucking help. But then when I heard that question, I was thinking, yeah, do you know what? Like everyone trying to help you all the time must be quite demoralizing. You know what I mean? Like, fuck's sake, like, I've got to get my ass wiped by this guy again. Like, oh, I've got to get help across the road. Like, just let me push myself across this road, even if it's a bit of a struggle. Like, I'll feel proud. I'll feel like I am somebody if I do it myself.
Yeah.
So I was taking all the power away from them by like doing everything for them.
Yeah. I think as well the helper can get too invested and too, they have an idea of this person should do this, why aren't they doing it? And they keep sort of going down there telling them, do this, do this. And they become too reliant on that person getting better or not getting better. So it affects them and how they feel and things like that. So you kind of have to have that right distance and relationship, know where the line is. Yeah, it's a tricky one to balance sometimes.
I think I'm actually doing that slightly to someone, a friend, not a client, but yeah, I think yeah, you just give me a little realization there, bro. Thanks. Yeah, so number 4 is by a friend of mine called Traylock. He said, "How can someone begin to work through the depression that comes with long-term injury? I damaged my chronic rotator cuff."
Data cuff.
Yeah, yeah. I think it. I think it was meant to say chronic injury. I damaged my rotator cuff, but I tried to delete chronic injury out and just put rotator cuff because it
Okay.
was easier. Yeah, how can someone work through the depression that comes with long term injury?
Yeah, I think, well, for me, I don't work, I'm not clinical psychologist, so I don't work with things like depression, anxiety, clinical issues. But feelings of depression, I'm not there to get rid of your depression or anything like that. But I would work with someone who says they sort of have depression but I might signpost them to a clinical psychologist who's then trained in that. But what I would say for someone who's sort of experiencing those feelings, sadness, depression, really down, you've got to sort of find maybe that meaning and purpose of other things outside of the injury and the sport you were doing, and kind of reallocate your attention to those other aspects. Also accepting that, coming to terms with those feelings, it's okay to have those feelings and not battling them too much, and maybe not thinking, oh, why do I feel like this? It's rubbish. I'm always going to feel like this. Actually just coming to terms with it and thinking, okay, I'm experiencing this right now. This is how I'm feeling. What do I actually need to do about it? Trying to separate, I'm not my thoughts. I'm just experiencing this right now. It will pass eventually. And then thinking back to, what do I need to do right now in this present moment to go forward to my goals? What are my interests? Bigger vision or meaning, purpose? Trying to sort of search for those things and follow that route. Not trying to sort of battle. And depression can be a bit of like rumination. So constantly sort of thought loops, trying to think your way out of a problem is impossible. You've got to try and do something else, try other things. And exercise and sport, I know you'd be injured, but people with sort of depression who aren't injured, just going on a run or going on a walk, being outside, stopping that rumination is really effective for that as well. So yeah, I hope that kind of answers that question a bit.
Yeah, thanks for that. Next, number 5. Many athletes talk about zone or flow state. Do you know what it is? How do we get into it more often? Yeah, I quite like that.
Yeah, so you've spoken about it a bit already, but I did my undergrad dissertation on the flow state, or a bit about the flow state.
Cool, man.
Yeah, I did it on, what was it? It was specifically on like the challenge skill balance. So one of the like prerequisites to flow state, there's got to be this balance between your skill level and the level of the challenge. And then if they kind of outmatch each other, you won't have flow state. It'll be either too hard of a challenge or you'll find it too easy and you won't get into flow. So yeah, I did a bit about that. It's kind of the optimal zone of functioning. So things like when you're in it, time moves differently if you experience it. Sometimes it can be like slow motion. So you're seeing things happening in slow motion, you know what's going to happen. But then when it's over, it feels like it just went by like that, and you couldn't be able to say how long that lasted for.
Yeah,
so that's kind of a characteristic of it. It's quite interesting. You don't really think. It's not a conscious thing. You just naturally know what to do. So it's like things are just flowing outside of your body, your actions. I don't know if you've heard of the self 1 and self 2 kind of concept.
Enlighten us, brother.
So self 2, this is by a guy called, I think he's Timothy Galloway. He wrote books called The Inner Game of Tennis and The Inner Game of Golf. Quite old books from the 70s, I think. And it's this concept of self 1 and self 2. So self 2 is our natural state where we innately just learn how to do things. That's the kind of zone 2. I mean, the flow side of things, that we can just do things effortlessly. We naturally learn from success and failure. And then the self 1 is kind of the critical ego mind. So when you do something and make a mistake, self 1 might criticize yourself. You might think, oh, Toby, why did you do that? Or you're rubbish, Toby. And you're criticizing self 2, which makes it kind of harder to get into flow and the zone. So we more want to be in that sort of self 2 and allowing that to come forward and quieting down self 1, that judgmental, attaching positive and negative judgments to actions. We want to just see it as it is factually. A good way of thinking about it that I like to explain to people is, in a tennis match, there's 2 players and then there's the umpire, or it's actually called the judge, sometimes the line judge. And we want to be thinking for self 2 more like the judge or the umpire. So just calling things factually. So one player hit a serve, return, and then he'll hit it out. The judge will just shout fault or out. And that's just a factual representation of what's happened. There's no sort of negative judgment around it. One player might think, oh, I hit it out, that's really bad. Why did I can't hit backhands. I'm terrible at them. The other player might celebrate and think, oh yes, like I forced him to do that. So there's this constant self 1 of good and bad attachments to outcomes. But what you want to do for self too is just have that factual representation of what happened without being negative or positive about things. That's kind of a way of quieting down self one and trying to let self two come forward a bit more and be in that flow state.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's class. Thanks.
it's a good book. That guy's theories. It's called The Inner Game of Tennis, and there's one on golf as well, I think.
The inner game of yes, right. I'll have a read of that. That sounds good. Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah,
The flow state's super interesting. Like super interesting. And I only I only started really looking into the flow state for meaning and purpose since researching Dr. John Vervaeke. That's one of his things. And it just makes so much sense to me. Like seriously, like if I look back at anything that I've done over my entire life, every single thing that I've found purpose in or meaning in has been I've got into the flow with. Like so, let's look at sport. When I played football, when I played for Leeds United, I was in the flow the whole time. Even in training, I'd go to the park and kick a ball, buy a bag of 5 balls and just go take free kicks. I was 100% in the flow the whole time. Same with rugby, when I was on the pitch, I was in the flow, found meaning in that. And now it's more helping people. I find like, especially when I get into a really good rhythm with a client in the session, man, like my sessions are an hour and a half. I feel like I've been in there 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like it just worked perfectly. That's how I know when the client's for me is because I get into the flow state pretty quick. If I'm not in the flow state, something's not going to work out. I know that there's too much friction there between us, or the way that I'm trying to process or relay information or relay a question back is not being processed in the way that is optimal by the way that I teach or train. So that I know that this client isn't for me. So then I say, look, thanks ever so much, but I don't feel like I could get the best outcome here. Like I'm happy to pass you on to X, Y, Z, and sort of give it to the next person because I just know don't you? Especially a friend of mine experiences this too. She's got her own private practice. She's a psychologist, psychotherapist, and she says like after one session, she knows if she can help this person or not. Straight away but when you're in a private practice, you can say no, you need to go to your GP sort of thing. So you can sort of give him like you say a signpost to someone else. But yeah, I find that like the flow state for me it happens super common. Happens anytime I'm doing anything with a brotherhood. That's how I know that this is for me. Right, recently today, until now when I've recognised that I was in the flow state. I'm now out of it because I've recognised it. Up until this point, 2 seconds ago, I was definitely in it. I felt in it. Upon reflection, in hindsight,
yeah,
jiu-jitsu, I feel it when I do jiu-jitsu or MMA, 100%. When I listen to books on philosophy or business, I get in the flow state. Super easy. Not last week, the week before, I listened to 4 audiobooks, mate. 3 by Alex Hormozy and 1 by Daniel Priestley. So it's like, fucking hell, like where did that time go? I sort of like absorbed the information. I took the information in. It wasn't like if I'm listening to a book and it's not going in, I think this is just in for me. Let's come back to it at a different date. Or flow state is such an interesting concept. Like and Dr. John Vervaeke talks about that as well about this the task has got to be hard enough that it keeps you involved because you know that you aren't the top or the best, but it's got to keep you. It's not going to be easy enough that it's super easy that you just fuck it off. So it's like this optimal range, which I believe is over halfway. So let's say this is the hardest thing you've ever done. Let's say this is the easiest thing you've ever done. This is halfway. I think it's just there. I think it's just above halfway. I think halfway, especially if you're a pessimist, you'll always go to the easy option, which is back out because this is easy. Whereas it needs to be just that little bit harder for me, which I find is the most optimal. Perfect, man. I love the flow state.
Yeah. I think what you're mentioning about just firstly there was, I think it's called autotelic. They call it,
Right.
which is one of the characteristics of the flow state, and that's basically meaning you're doing it for the sake of doing it. There's no other reason. You're not doing it for money, because someone's telling you to do it. You're doing something just because you want to do it, and that's why you keep doing it. That's kind of one of the characteristics as well from it. I think there's 9 in total. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. Yeah, but really interesting, and it's so hard to research. Like the research on it is really because you can't really quantify it.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't know. No one's found a brain area where it's happening or anything like that. So the research is all sort of qualitative, people's experiences, case studies, really interesting stuff. But there's no formula for getting into it that someone's found, or you can't measure how strong it is quantifiably or anything like that. But yeah,
Look,
really interesting.
it'd be so interesting if we could say, do you know those like little pads that you put on your head and it measures stuff? Like get a brain scan and then get someone to just go about their daily life, forget they're even on there, and then notice when they get in the flow state, when they get out of it, put a thing on their watch or whatever, like tap a thing and it'll say, okay, this is the end of when I've come out of the flow state. Go back and look at the brain scan and be like, okay, what happened to the brain in this moment when this person was in the flow state? Like that shit excites me. I'm like, yeah, I'll fund it. I'll put all my money into that from my tree surgery business, and let's get after the flow. Yeah, it's interesting the flow state actually. It's
Yeah, but it's with the head sort of stuff, brain imaging, brain mapping things. You've got it on all the time because it's quite bulky stuff. There are smaller sort of EEG pads that you could wear, but then can you play sport with those things on and things like that? It's really hard to measure. And then it's kind of someone just saying self-reporting. Okay, this is when I started it, and then this is when I think I came out of it. It's kind of a self-report thing as well. So you're relying on someone to be honest as they can, or know if they are or aren't in flow state.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe with Elon Musk's implant or something,
The
the
Neuralink.
technology will
Yeah,
come. It'll come.
do you reckon, like, just thinking there more on the flow, do you reckon the flow is addictive? Like, you're saying there about people do things because they want to do it. Like, maybe I'm slightly addicted to being in it. That's why I do all this stuff because it feels fucking amazing.
Maybe. I think people say that about like extreme sports people. They're addicted to that feeling of real date. That's how they feel fear and real danger. There was a guy. Who's the guy? Like the free solo guy? Was it Alex something? No,
It's Baumgartner.
I can't remember. Yeah, he did the L cap, so without ropes and
Oh
stuff.
no, the guy I'm thinking about is the guy who jumped out. Alex Baumgartner is the guy who jumped out of that hot air balloon.
No, I don't
Red
know
Bull
who that
guy.
is.
No. Oh, Alex, I know which one he means. He's like French or
Is it?
something, is he?
I can't remember. Hammond or something. Hammond. I
Yeah.
can't
We'll
remember.
just call him Alex Hammond. So yeah.
Yeah, but I think he did some tests, or he just said that he never doesn't really feel fear or anything like that,
Yeah.
and even when he's like on these rock faces, he barely feels anything. So he's kind of people are suggesting that extreme athletes like that are sort of chasing the adrenaline and trying to feel something, trying to feel that flow state. Maybe that's why they do it.
Yeah, I wonder why he didn't. Love to have a conversation with him.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. So the last two, we've sort of covered the last one, but so number 6 is why do some athletes fall into depression after achieving their dream, Olympic medals, championships, records, when the world expects them to be fulfilled?
Yeah, I think it's people think achieving like a outcome or like a material goal, like a gold medal, at a specific time, something like that, a trophy, a title. They think their feelings will be a result of that. Like they'll have good. That's what success is for their feelings, and if they do this, then they'll feel this. But attaching feelings to these material things is never going to work, and it's proven that it doesn't work over and over again. So yeah, what they would have done and why people fall off into sort of sadness and spiral down into depression at times, they've attached their self-worth and they think they're going to feel something when they achieve a material outcome, but in reality that won't happen and that will never work. So that doesn't mean go and have these goals and go and chase these things. Absolutely go and do it if you want to do it, but don't think that your how you feel and how you want to feel will just be okay if you do that thing. Because you can't really attach feelings to winning something or a title. That's not really how, like the bus driver example. You know, the
Yeah.
feelings will come and go, the thoughts will come and go. You're still driving regardless of them. So yeah, I think that's probably what's happening there.
Maybe as well, like when we do attach feelings to outcomes, when then that feeling doesn't happen, we get demoralizing again. It's like this. Oh, what? Like, oh, I didn't. This thing didn't happen that I made up. I made up the story and it didn't. It wasn't fulfilled. Oh God, I've hurt my own feelings now. That's pretty much
Yeah,
what happened. I don't know if you ever read the book. It's by a guy called Don Miguel Ruiz. It's called the Four Agreements.
no,
Oh man, read it. It'll change your life. It'll really help with therapy. Honestly, it's so good. One of them is don't make assumptions. And this is a theme that I pick up often is when people assume something based on experience usually, but assume something like you should go into everything, not assuming anything. Because if you assume something and it doesn't go your way, then you get offended. So you basically just hurt your own feelings by making up a story that doesn't exist. And I think this is what happens when people say, "Oh, when I win this Olympic championship or whatever, I'm gonna be so happy, my life will be complete." They win it, the life isn't complete, and then they're like, "Oh, what?" Like all this dread, fear, guilt, shame, whatever it might be. That can happen. I'm sure.
yeah. I think simply as well, like if you think about Christmas and birthdays and things like that, it's kind of like the build up to it
Yeah.
is the best exciting part. And then on the day, yeah, it can be great and everything, or on the day, sometimes it doesn't quite meet your expectations with how you're going to feel. And then afterwards, Boxing Day, you get January, everyone's sad in January, things like that. So it's kind of this constant cycle that people are going on, not just sports people
Yeah.
at the top level. It kind of happens, all the time with expecting certain events are usually the best part when you're expecting it and building up to it. And then you actually do it, and then afterwards you realize, oh right, what now? I'm still me. I've not really, I've still got the same thoughts and feelings and things like that. I've still got to do something else now. So
Yeah,
constant cycles, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that. So last one, we've sort of covered this as well, but I'll just say it anyway. If you feel like we've covered it, just let me know. How do people stay connected to sport/sporty things after they retire from something, or what else can people do that ticks that box?
Yeah, I think good question. I think finding a different role. So if you've had to retire through injury or you just can't quite play at that level anymore, finding a different role in the club or in the sport. So if that's coaching, management, volunteering, depending on what level it is, there's all kinds of roles that go on in sports. I know specifically rugby clubs as well, volunteers keep the places going, from people in the kitchens to referees, umpires, whatever it is, coaching. So finding a different role that might suit you, or finding a different sport as well. So it doesn't have to be a sport; it could be any hobby outside of sport as well. So, like golf, for example, that's probably majority of people who play golf probably played other sports before golf. It's kind of one of those sports you can go to. It's less physically demanding. The load isn't as good, isn't as high. Sorry. So that's something people generally go towards, and then they can play golf for the rest of their lives as long as they can sort of walk. Basically, you can play golf to a certain level. So yeah, thinking with an open mind, I think either staying in your sport with a different role or just going to try other sports, seeing what you like, seeing what you don't like, or outside of sport as well, hobbies, interests. That maybe you had something when you were a kid growing up, you played an instrument or you did some sort of art or craft or something, and picking that up again, seeing how you find it. You might really enjoy it. So yeah, have a bit of an open mind, I'd say.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Okay, but that's pretty much us wrapped up. If you want say anything else, by all means, please do. If not, the last two things that I always ask everybody are, what is your favorite tool for mental health, whether that be reading, whether that be whatever it might be for you, meditation, breath work, could be an exercise. What's your favorite tool? And then the last question is, do you have anybody that you can recommend to come on the pod? Someone that you feel might be good for this podcast, sort of hit what we're trying to achieve here with, helping people with mental health issues. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, first one for a tool. So Personally, I like to just write things down. So like dumping, obviously you have all these thoughts going on in your head. I find it much better if I literally just mind map and just jot things down. It can be like on a whiteboard back there, or journaling on a bit of paper with a few prompts. That really helps me personally, just seeing everything on a bit of paper, and then I can sort of actually get things out of my head a bit more onto paper, and I just seem to be able to see it more clearly and think more clearly. So journaling for me, or just sort of brain dumping, word vomiting, if you want to call it that. You can go through like there's like word vomit techniques where you just sort of say everything that comes to your head, what's going on right now for you, what's challenging you right now, and you just write. It doesn't matter if it's like you think it's important or not. If it comes into your head, you just write it down, and then you can kind of see patterns of things and notice things that are coming up again and again.
Yeah.
So that's something for me that's really useful. And then someone's come on the podcast. I've got a friend who's also a trainee like me.
Yeah.
So he's in my supervision group. We're kind of training together. We have the same supervisor.
Amazing.
He's called Matthias. He's actually got his own podcast as well.
Oh, wow.
So he's got his own podcast. So I think he'd be really interested to come on your. He's like an Italian guy as well, but he lives here.
Yeah.
Now he's he's like in his 30s, I think. I'm not too sure. Apologise to him if that's wrong, but
this is when he's 22 and he's like, "Fuck this guy."
No, he's definitely older than me. But yeah, he's got a different background, perspectives on things, different approaches as well. But it'll be interesting, probably for you to talk to, I think.
Yeah, please, if you could drop him a message or something, and try and connect us in somewhere, that'd be great. I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Happy to do that.
Okay, so thanks ever so much for coming, Toby. I really appreciate it. We covered some really amazing stuff there. Some realizations for me that I need to go away and think about. So thank you. And it was great having you on the pod, brother. And I'm sure that I will have you on again sometime in the future. Maybe once you've completed your qual and done a bit of groundwork, and then we can have a talk again in a year and see if you've learned anything from now to then. It'd be good. So thanks ever so much, mate. Look after yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Cheers.